He who has in every case defined the good by the honorable is happy with an inward happiness. This is a quote from Seneca. He was a famous Roman lawyer, philosopher, and advisor to one of the Roman emperors. Life can be extremely challenging and sometimes very hard. And if we are seeking to live a good life where we have actual self mastery, that we have something that is higher than any other pursuit. And our business crashes, our relationships fall apart, our health deteriorates, our mind becomes ill, our emotions cause an internal storm, or we just lose connection with the divine, that we always have something to return back to. And this is why Seneca said that which is honorable and the good are identical. Life is very much like a passing river or a passing stream, and what is going to be our compass? And this is a role what virtue has played since the ancients, and this could be gratitude. But this video will focus on that which is honorable, to always keep our course straight no matter in what area of life, because that is what our purpose is. Life is incredibly short and death is always just around the corner. So why not aim for the highest while we're alive? Things will never be perfect. The outside world, the inside world, things are always up for change. But when we somehow rectify everything and can turn inward and find a center and do that which is honorable, we just live a higher quality life. And as I've said in my example, honor is part of the service area because it relates to many areas at once, and it governs both our spirit, our material life, our mind, our heart, our body, and our relationship. It covers all aspects of our life, and we constantly need to go back to that which is honorable. But what exactly does that mean? Now, if we truly value honor, the good, the highest expression of ourselves, the highest thing we can tap into, then we must also face the fact that if we desire to achieve our best self, it doesn't necessarily mean that our life will be easy or that our environment will be easy. Seneca himself also said that if we desire a life of honor, we also desire those things without a life cannot be honorable. Seneca himself worked for the Emperor Nero, who was a tyrant who murdered his own mother. He was completely engulfed in Roman politics and in the Roman drama. At this day and age, he would have been a multi-billionaire. And he in the end chose to commit suicide because even though he collected all this wealth, when Nero gave the command for him to commit suicide, he did so without hesitation and lost his life, his wealth, his friends, and everything that was supposedly his. And another example is that Plato became a slave and was only bought free by one of his acquaintances who knew him. So he bought Plato as a slave, and only later did he found the School of Athens. And another example is Martin Luther King, who got shot fighting for freedom. These were honorable actions, but they can carry severe risk and carry a severe price to pay. And this is why it's so important that when we actually seek to live a good life, where we seek to find the highest quality within and act from that, that we also must accept that life will throw many curveballs. And for most of us, it's not going to be as extremes as having to drink a cup of poison, working for a Roman emperor who was a murderous tyrant, or being sold on the slave market. But life is life. And when you just look through history, a lot of human beings actually have a very hard life. And if we truly desire to find the good, then we're also desiring for hard things to happen to us. And almost no one is exempt from this, no matter how healthy, wealthy, or beautiful you are. We're all going to be faced with challenges. And it's exactly in the challenging moments, the most challenging moments, that maybe also this good, this very precious thing that resides within ourselves and can also be outside of ourselves, that it can guide our steps and come to life. And this is also why in many traditions and in ceremonies, people have to do very hard things in order to transition to a next stage or find something within themselves that is stronger than our external environment. It is really important to understand that life can always change in the blink of an eye, and to actually practice these things in small ways, because when shit does hit the fan, you get shipwrecked, your family dies, you lose everything you thought you were building. It is really important that you can find a space within you that can transcend all of that. Honor and death are inextricably linked. You almost cannot have one without the other. And all the honorable stories that Seneca quotes, that the ancients talk about, almost always involve someone's death. And when we really think about all the smaller fears, loss of bankruptcy, loss of health, loss of relationship, insanity of the mind, they almost all point to a fear of death. Because what is losing a relationship, what is losing your job, but losing a part of yourself, losing something you have identified with. And honor points really to something higher than anything we can identify with. And this is why it's really good to reflect on your own death and reflect on that you are actually going to die one day. And this moment might happen sooner than later. You never know when it's the last day you have with someone, when it's your own last day. And by continuously having your own death at the forefront of your thought, it can make you wiser and can help you become a better human being. And it becomes really in the eyes of death that we really get to know ourselves, who we are and what we stand for. Because if we are willing to face our own death, if we are willing to die, that can only happen if we find something greater than death within ourselves. And all calamities in life point us towards finding that thing. And no one can tell you exactly what it is. We have a name for it. Now we're talking about honor, but it's something very deep and something very real that you can only really find out for yourself. Because the opposite of life is not death. The opposite of death is birth. There is only one way to get born, but there are infinite ways to die. And by taking control of death, by the fear of death, by being willing to die ourselves, we can tap into something far greater that can in turn transform every aspect of our life. This doesn't necessarily mean to be highlighted by humanity, to become the next Martin Luther King, to become the next Seneca, to become famous. That all doesn't really matter, because again, we're gonna die one day. And even if you get remembered for 2,000 years, that's still a relatively short time. What does really matter is the way we live and what we're able to experience. And imagine a life that is always caught up by the calamities and can never ever transcend beyond this realm and space, beyond something far deeper and far more sacred. And this is really done by very long meditation. If you look at people like Socrates or Seneca or very wise people in general, I can even think of the example of Nelson Mandela coming from prison, is what they all share in common is they've meditated for a very, very long time on their own death and what it means to really live a good life. Practicing virtue and becoming truly virtuous, it is very hard to learn that from people. We can for sure take examples, take notes, and try to better ourselves. It's not about becoming perfect, and we don't necessarily even have to talk and share so much about it, but we just want to increasingly become better and better at it. And this is only done by very long meditation. We really need to meditate for such a long time upon these subjects that they become an integral part of our being. And this is done by daily reminders, daily journaling, daily reading, daily meditation, and everything that happens in our lives. This can easily take decades. What we really want to do is make these things part of our character. But a good example of here is Seneca himself, who's the inspiration of this video. When Nero, the Roman emperor, murdered his mother, Seneca was aware of this, and he wrote a letter to the Roman Senate explaining that his mom indeed was going to take the throne of Nero, and that is why Nero had to kill her. So he purposely lied about the motives of Nero, who was actually paranoid, because either one case he was afraid of his own death, because going against the emperor would have certainly meant his own death, or he wanted to prevent a civil war. Seneca is like a famous drama story that has been discussed by so many people, but what I really find beautiful is that a lot of these people we truly respect, they're very involved with life. They take a lot of action, and they're for sure not perfect. How can action always be perfect? How can it always play out well? But even in the midst of all this chaos, to have something higher and to have something internal that always guides as a compass. Because when we eventually come to the end sooner or later, knowing we did well and did our best and reach that higher state is the greatest gift we can ever truly give ourselves.